Ring, 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 hello, simps and virgins.
And birthday people of the world.
I hope you had a very lovely Christmas. And welcome back to Elsa's magical birthday cake.
Well. Welcome back to the Krown Crypto channel. Yes, indeed, it is Elsa's birthday. So Merry birthday and happy Christmas to you as well, good sir. Anyways, today's video, I wanted to focus on not necessarily Bitcoin, although we'll be looking at a derivative of Bitcoin, but it's probably one of the most bullish charts that I can find in the whole crypto land. And that is not, that might not be what a lot of people are looking for. But you know what? I want to preface this whole conversation by saying that while we will be talking about Bitcoin dominance, we're not making a direct analysis of altcoin or Bitcoin versus the US dollar. So despite this analysis, despite what we'll be speaking about right here, this does not imply that altcoins will be going up or down versus the US dollars. That's probably going to be much more likely a function of the direction of Bitcoin versus the dollar, and then altcoins follow in varying degrees of strength and weakness. Anyways, without further ado, let's just jump right into it here. I want to start off this analysis with the most compelling piece of data, and that is the weekly volatility. We are looking at the lowest read ever of weekly volatility since this data has been recorded on the Bitcoin dominance chart. That does imply that we're going to be looking at probably one of the biggest expansion phases, which implies that we're probably going to be looking at one of the biggest moves in this particular asset's history. So again, this is Bitcoin dominance. This is the relationship between altcoin versus Bitcoin. Again, not the same thing as altcoin versus the dollar, not the same thing as Bitcoin versus the dollar, but altcoin versus Bitcoin. So essentially, which one, if you were to hold, do you lose less money with, or in the more bullish perspective, which one, if you were holding, would make you more money? Now, of course, again, that's a function of Bitcoin's direction versus the dollar, typically speaking. But in this case, we are going to be looking at very likely one of the biggest moves on this particular chart since its inception for the year of 2023. Now, with that in mind, we can then go cross-check a few of the things for a bias on direction. And here's the relationship. If Bitcoin dominance goes up, then that implies that in general, maybe not all of them, but in general, the majority of altcoin Bitcoin parents will be, going down. And in this case, a few things of interest here on the weekly. First and foremost, weekly Joule got a pretty damn good signal in early/mid of December, as you can see right here, supported by the slow moving oscillator as well. We also even see a drive of regular bullish evidence on the last low that the dominance chart did put in over here in late November. Moving on to the 3-week time frame chart, which we don't really get to look at too much, but it's kind of like the highest time frame that I'd say where we can still populate some of these oscillators here. And on the 3-week chart, same thing, multiple drives of regular bullish divergence in this case, coming off that last low. And then to top that off, we see the 3-week Joule is also getting a really, really good signal right here. The best one basically since February of 2018. What happened in February 2018? You might be asking, oh, was that this whole fucking massive move right here? Actually, it was. Before this asset went basically from the lows to, essentially the highs, almost a little over an 80% move right there, from bottom to top. Anyways, to take this one step further, we should now go over to the monthly time frame. The monthly is also going to be building some bullish divergence here between this low and this low, presumably. Also, the monthly RSI going to be rejecting the bearish control zone and also back above the exponential for the first time in, it's got to be like a year now. And of course, that is going to be accompanied by, lower lows on price action, higher lows on RSI. That would be your bullish divergence. And while it's a little bit less populated here than the 3-week, you can see that the monthly is starting to swing around for potentially a signal on the Joule as well, but it's not quite there. I'd say it's a little bit too premature to be saying anything like that. But what we can check is the monthly stochastic oscillator, which, by the way, is going to have its first chance to cross the upside for the first time in a while if Bitcoin basically closes here or higher above about 42.07 and a half. If it can do that, we'll see that one turn to the upside, again, plus bullish divergence, plus actual DMI divergence here as well between the lows from September of 2021 to kind of where we're at right now as well. And then also the first time that it's really going to be presumably rejecting the critical zone, which would also be another form of divergence actually there as well. So we'd have several things kind of working in the same direction. And then we can go over here to the bi-monthly. The bi-monthly chart, again, not something that you really have to check in too often. We still have the same sort of potential regular bullish divergence going on over here and breaking back above the bearish control zone for the first time since March 2021. On top of that, we also do see that the bi-monthly jewel, again, probably way too early to be looking at this, but it is getting its first upside curvature basically since, this indicator started populating its data, but so it's probably not too trustworthy to be fair, but that in alignment with everything else, does really, I personally speaking, I do think that we're looking at like a major macro low right here. And this one's going to be working its way much higher over the course of the next year. So as you probably noticed on this channel, we really don't do too many updates on this particular chart just because on the macro, it doesn't really change all that much to be fair. But yes, if we even go and reference the bi-monthly stochastic loss order as well, guess what? It's also going to be crossing to the upside for the first time in, Jesus, man, it's got to be, since May of 2020, actually, assuming that it closes basically anywhere above 42 within the next 5.5 days or so. Anyways, with all that said, we can now go back here. Let me actually just double check. Okay, yes, we can go back over here. I'm going to go to a monthly time frame and we can actually throw some good old drawings, just draw all over my fucking charts, huh? And in this case, we do have a nice box. We do have a nice box. We do have a nice box consolidation, which yes, these are actually some another one of the few formations that I'll ever actually pay attention to, although I don't really speak about it too often because you actually don't see too many of them in cryptocurrency land. You see them a lot more in traditional land, in fact. But in this case, we have a clear and obvious boundary to the bottom side at about 39.25 versus a clear and obvious boundary to the upside at about 48%. So long term, this is not happening today, not happening tomorrow, but long term, this sort of a consolidation can provide a nice measured move, an implied target essentially upon confirmation above or below the upper or lower boundary. In this case, if it does confirm above the top side of the boundary, again above about 48%, then there would be an implied move all the way up towards about 62, with very likely a stop along the way, which is also around the 1.618 and the 200 simple on the weekly here. At about 53.5. So those would be the two areas of interest. I'll actually move this little box over. These would be the two areas of interest, assuming that it does break out to the upside. Now, if it breaks out to the downside, obviously that's going to imply, a retest of the lows from 2018. I think that's incredibly unlikely. I think that this is one of the more obvious lows that is being put in across this market. But ultimately, this is not an analysis on any lower time frame. In fact, if we go to a lower time frame like a daily, wouldn't be surprised to see it actually come back. It could very easily pull back. I mean, it could very easily pull back down to 40% ultimately. But I do think that would just be yet another opportunity to basically dump altcoins for Bitcoin long term. Now, of course, it's not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, but it's basically a long way of saying, look, alts are fucked. Most alts are going to be fucked. Now, some of the very, very strong ones versus Bitcoin, or sorry, just some of the strong ones in general, they might hold up against Bitcoin. They might even do better than Bitcoin. Definitely possible. But I do think that we are once again going to be witnessing the extinction event of most altcoins for this cycle, meaning that if and when Bitcoin even does put in an upside move, you'll likely see altcoins move to the upside versus the dollar as well. But they'll probably not move up as much in general as Bitcoin. So again, this is not saying that all altcoins are doomed, but in comparison to Bitcoin, probably not going to be a great 2023 if I had to guess. This is probably one of the more obvious charts I think that we'll see. I think it's been obvious for like the last half year here, but these sort of things do take a lot of time because we are looking at a macro move, so to speak. So while I have been speaking about this for a while, I do think that 2023 is going to very likely be the year where this one does start to really get fucking moving. Anyways, we are 9.5 minutes into this bitch right now. Yeah, I think that's probably a good place to be leaving off. Other than that, I want to be taking a second to wish you the best as always. I forgot to let you know, however, that we will be having a sale period for the 1st of January, starting the 1st of January for a week. So if you can, hold off on purchasing anything in the meantime, because if you aren't purchasing anything, that is, because it'll be a little bit less expensive in just a few days here. All right, sweet. Yes, that's it for today. Much love, take care, and see you hopefully soon.